This is the Professor, CBMG PhD, and today is Sunday, January 12, 2025. It's 1:34 and 50 seconds p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today's research, Darwinian. So let's hop to it here. Darwinian evolution relies on three conditions. 1. Organisms undergoing evolution must possess enough structural and functional variation in the population to ensure they do not all respond the same way to changes in their environment. Note that the populations of the amphiphiles in Earth's primitive environment were sufficiently different to meet this condition. 2. Organisms must be able to pass their variable traits to their descendants. In other words, these traits must be inheritable. Because primitive amphatic lipids self-assemble in aqueous environments, their structure and functional traits are shared by all structures that contain them, including their descendants. Note that structures that fail to make copies of themselves fail to meet a fundamental requirement for being alive, so only self-replicating protocells were eligible to evolve into living organisms. 3. Some inherited traits must confer a selective advantage on subsets of organisms within the population. Over time, these traits become more common in surviving members of the population. The makeup of the population must change over time in response to environmental changes. If all variants respond identically to changes in the environment, there is no selective pressure. The population remains unchanged, and evolution by natural selection does not occur. Other experiments demonstrate that under very specific conditions, layers of lipids will stack on each other, forming the characteristic lipid layer that all biological membranes now have. This must have conferred a significant advantage over single-layer compartments, because all living organisms inherited this trait. Amazingly, the entire sequence of events that gave rise to all life on Earth started with a simple chemical principle. Amphipathic molecules self-assemble in the presence of liquid water to form stable structures. Life would not exist without the assembly-forcing potential of water. Once the first cells formed on Earth, how did they grow and divide to give rise to populations capable of undergoing Darwinian evolution? There is no known physical evidence to explain how this occurred. So to address this question, we need to propose possible explanations and look for evidence to support them. One group of explanations focuses on the importance of transmitting information from one generation of cells to the next using codes. Think for a moment how we transmit information in our everyday lives. For communication to be effective, we must understand and follow some fundamental rules. Both the sender and receiver must share a common language, be it literal, e.g. words, or figurative, e.g. a smile. Furthermore, each must be equipped with the necessary structures to generate a signal and translate it into some action. The same is true for cells and molecules that comprise them. They must have the ability to create and receive coded information at the cellular level. The first bits of information they exchanged were likely instructions for replication and basic metabolism. As cells grew more complex and sophisticated, the amount and complexity of the information they could exchange increased as well. To better familiarize yourself with the importance of coded communication at the cellular level, consider how critical codes are in everyday life. This book relies on the code of written language. For example, where you sit in your classroom is determined in part by the code built into the arrangement of the seats, all in order to optimize communication and learning. As another example, our conversations are filled with codes that communicate our thoughts and even our emotions to others. Some codes, e.g. basic vocabulary and languages, are general purpose, while others, e.g. cell biology codes, are highly specialized to address very specific ideas. Next, consider what is required to make a code effective. The sender and the recipient must possess the physical ability to generate, encode, and decode the information. To make effective use of language codes, we rely on our senses and motor skills to read and write. The same is true for cells and the molecules that comprise them. They must have the ability to create and receive coded information at the cellular level. The first bits of information they exchanged were likely instructions for replication of basic metabolism. As cells grew more complex and sophisticated, the amount and complexity of the information they could exchange increased. And this is Professor Christopher, codename Will, leader of research scientist ufologist, computer technician, computer programmer, philanthropist, writer, mathematician, artist, photographer, film producer, chef, animal, and nature lover, passion, world peace. And this video was created for educational purposes only. Hope you enjoyed listening. Until next time, have a great day. This is the Professor, CBMG, PhD. And today is Sunday, January 12, 2025. It's 1:34 and 50 seconds p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today's research.